Oh, I should say what this is. And I should get in shot as well.
It's an actual copy of the Hippies.
This is a replica of the Hippies' first cassette EP on one side. And then on the B side, it's Simon Fisher Turner who did the scoring. He did a whole kind of response remix thing, which is quite an unusual thing to have. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's he used to do most of Derek Jarman's soundtracks, and so that's rather special.
We've got a cassette player.
You do, brilliant. I mean, it's
in the loft.
everything's in the loft, isn't it? Really. And so, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause, please, for. There he is.
The original?
Ah, well, that's one of the questions, you see.
Yeah. Gorgeous.
Let's put that noisy thing over there.
Love the suit making.
Mr. Nealon, over to you. Right. So yeah, there'll be some questions from Ben, and then we'll open it up. I think. Okay. Do we need these? No. Okay.
Yeah. So rather than the question I was going to ask you, I thought I'd talk about the first two films that you did. Kind of followed a journey, the South Downs.
Yep.
And the second film, obviously, Dummy Jim, even though he got lost on the way. This one, you started off. There's obviously a journey, but it's not a clear narrative journey. When you begin the film, did you have any idea where it was going to go to? Were you surprised where it went to? And how did you decide when to finish the journey?
Ooh, that's a triple whammy. I should say the very. So I acquired the cassette. Toby and Polly didn't seem that interested in it, and I kind of was the one that initially took on this love of music from the Hippies. So I kept hold of the tape, and I suppose for all those years I thought, this must be something we could do with this, you know. But the first step I took to develop an idea was actually it was going to be a covers project. So the idea was the Hippies would reform, all of us in our late 40s, early 50s, and we would do cover songs using the original instruments of songs by bands that we really liked from that time. And then we would approach those bands and say, could you please do covers of Rabies, Dallas City Ghost in return? So it's going to be a kind of covers exchange project. And I just had that written on a piece of paper on my wall for ages, thinking that would be fun. And then, do you remember MySpace? This slightly early sort of social media promotion platform. So the Hippies had a MySpace page, and one of the Hippies' friends was a band called Luft from Lausanne in Switzerland, and they got in touch and said, hello. I won't do that. No, they said exactly like that. They said, could we do, please, a cover of Dallas City Ghost? And I said, that would be just brilliant. Yes, please do it. And they did, and they made this amazing 9-minute sort of kind of camp disco version. But when they suggested that, I thought, gosh, maybe I should go over there and film them in the studio doing this thing, because they were quite unusual looking guys. And I didn't do that, but that kicked off the idea that there could be a film. So that's 2010, and obviously, like you're suggesting, there's been this very long period of development, and I won't be able to put that in a nutshell, but let's just say we started out in a fairly conventional way. I resist writing scripts and screenplays. It's not really my thing, but we wrote a treatment, which is a sort of prose pieces with pictures and descriptions and suggestions for scenes, and we used that to get some initial funding, which eventually went on to get quite significant funding from Creative England and Creative Scotland.
But then along the way, as is hinted right at the beginning of the film, you have a producer involved. The project becomes more and more personal in the 10 years, more and more as you drive down into it, really very, very personal. How do you then balance that kind of trying to satisfy the whims and the wants of the people who are funding you, the producers, when suddenly it's become much more than just a kind of, in a sense, what the first two films, although the first two films are very personal, they're more structured in a way. This became something much more intense. And then how do you kind of deal with that conflict of something that's holding on to something that's so personal, and one letting go of it at the end, but also keeping control, kind of leasing control to other people? How does that process kind of?
Yeah, no, good question. I mean, that goes to the core of my being. The way I try and deal with any sort of conflict or adversity is through creativity, and quite often jumping sideways or doing the unexpected. So what you're seeing in the film, the structure and the feeling, and quite a few of the edit decisions are in fact what's happening to me as I'm making the film, how I'm responding to suggestions from a producer that I may not like, or I take them literally and I do literally what they've asked, just to say, well, I'll do that, look what it looks like, but we'll include it anyway. So there's a lot of, I guess that's sort of a bit ego play, isn't it, going on? But that's play is the word for me, and my brother and my sister. I mean, we're all very playful, and so yeah, you're seeing a film about filmmaking as much as anything. And to go back to your question earlier about how on earth do you pull that together into kind of something that feels like a narrative, so the audience isn't just given a sort of smorgasbord of complete randomness. I guess there are various, I see it as like weaving. There's various strands that are developing over time, and if you stick with them you get a sense of resolve which is akin to a narrative.
And how important is Nick, your editor, in that? Because you've worked with Nick in all three films that you've done, and it's clear that there's a really strong relationship there, where the two of you work close together to pull that together. Yeah,
well, I work. Well, it's interesting. Either sometimes very closely with him, like sort of frame to frame, especially if it's something to do with rhythm and timing. That's my thing that I'm really very serious about. But then there are other things like broader themes. He's better at sort of stepping back and seeing the wider picture and saying, you might think that map, but actually it's not on the screen, that's in your head. Or that's a bit too much of mum. Whatever it is, he's able to kind of guide it. Plus, as I was saying earlier, there needs to be someone who's really good at file numbering, file naming, protocols, technical stuff. I mean, there was something like 600 hours of footage or something crazy. So it's all these drives, all this stuff, that media that needs to be managed, and I don't need to worry about that stuff. So.
And how much of that is then, in your initial kind of storyboarding of it, how much is that kind of, are you surprised by what comes in, or how much of it is kind of you've set up that kind of parameter? Yeah,
I mean, so much of it is I could not have been predicted, because I'm intentionally. What I try and do is create a situation of benign chaos in which the people I work with could do what they do, because they can do it better than I can. But sometimes I think people need a kind of to be held, especially if you're working with 18 young people and a community and all the rest of it. Someone needs to just be the person that does that, and that's what I do. And as much as possible within that, I'm not directing. It's
community is really important to you, isn't it?
It is. I'll just quickly press this one again. This community is very, very important to me. Yes. So the second feature I made, called Dummy Jim, was based on a book written by a profoundly deaf cyclist from northeast Scotland who cycled in 1951 from his small village of CAMBRIDGE to the Arctic Circle, and he wrote this little journal. And again, my mum found that when she was living on the Isle of Mull and sent it and said, Matt, I know you like kind of outsider artists and quirky people. Here's one. And in fact, she put a note in the front of the book that said, do not feel obliged to make a film about this. And it took 13 years. And I did. But yeah, that was working with an entire village. And working partly around what they would ordinarily do as customs in the area, but sort of tweaking things a bit so they fit in the kind of the world of Dummy Jim. And what I'd hope with this is, even if it feels a bit out of control or chaotic or random, that internally it's consistent. It's got its own world, and most of what you're saying there is coming from poems we wrote as children, or bits of letters, or drawings, or jokes we had as kids, or references to. I was just thinking. There was one very specific Cambridge reference again. Yes, so there's this guy with the ginger hair and the 2 pints. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
By the fire. So when Mum worked at Cyrenians in Gonville Place, there was this guy called 2 Pints Ray. He was a lovely man, kept himself pretty much to himself, but we'd go to the pub with him when they got their dole money, and he'd buy 2 pints, and he'd sit at a table on his own, and he'd put the other pint opposite, and he'd have a conversation with his friend, and then he'd drink his pint, and he'd go, I see you're not drinking. Can I have that? It was so funny. And he also used to wear his tie outside his sweater. Do you know that? Yeah. Anyway, so there are lots of things in there that are actually directly adapted from real life. So it's a true story, but broken up into loads of pieces and spread around. Yeah.
But the use of the youth theatres as well in Glasgow, that seemed really important to kind of reflect, to mirror what was happening to you in 1979, and to say almost, with all of those people in the youth theatre, nothing's changed. When you said to your mum, what should we do on the holiday? Well, why don't you form a band? Okay, and then you give the opportunity to these guys to do that.
Yeah. And
you see the same enthusiasm, and then the build up, and all of them playing around with genders, playing around with kind of rebellion, with all sorts of things, and giving them the opportunity to do that. And again, coming back to that idea that you have a community.
Yeah.
That anything goes. There's, play, do anything, just perform in front of a camera. Nothing is wrong.
Yeah, and I think if we sort of delve down into it, there's a scene there which hopefully articulates that. I was really upset when the hippies were split up, because I really like having my brother and sister to play with. I'm the middle child, obviously, and so when I'm not, I'm kind of, there's a bit of melodrama there. I'm kind of playing this idea that I'm so upset that Toby broke up the band. It was really annoying at the time. But that tells you that I'm someone that really likes to keep things together. And that may or may not relate to the divorce situation, I don't know, but I think I was like that even before then.
Did the band only ever exist in Cambridge, or in your mum's?
In Cambridge, yes, it was a sort of hermetically sealed holiday.
So when you went back to Reading, the band was no more.
Yeah.
So
and Toby had already gone to, been sent, as it were, to to Reading School, which was the kind of serious boys' school. And suddenly he was being forced to play rugby and do all this Latin and stuff, and so that was at real odds with that kind of bohemian scene, the Cambridge scene, well, the Mill Road scene, really.
Yeah. Should open it up to questions from the audience. No, right, okay.
Stop.
I think
Give us a chance.
Yes, one question, yes.
I think I've got one.
Yeah.
Sorry, it sounds really rude, but I didn't realise you'd done 2 films before this. So, at the beginning of this film, you said that you weren't going to do another film?
Yeah.
Did I hear that right? So, as a narcissist, you and Spoons have still decided not to do another film? Because I feel, after watching this, I feel slightly invested in your family. It's like, it's
Good luck.
weird. It's really strange. And I don't know, it's kind of, I could see it as like a bit of a triptych or something. I just think it'd be nice to hear your mum's side of the story, or Not that, or make no, but more so, a little bit more so.
Well,
you
it's
know, that
not going to
opposite-
happen. Firstly, can I say I'm not a narcissist. I was called a narcissist.
Oh,
and
you
I
were
adopted it as a
called
cloak to get
narcissist.
back at the guy that called me a narcissist.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
And I made a T-shirt saying so. So you call me a narcissist, I'm going to wear it on a T-shirt.
Okay.
Um,
So I totally missed
no,
that.
I've met a few
But
narcissists,
is Spoons
and
a
I-
narcissist?
you can ask Spoons.
Spoons? It's the fifth, isn't it?
This is where we need the mic. Sorry. Sorry, what was your name?
Tanya.
Sorry, Tanya, what was your question?
So, are you a narcissist?
That's what they call me.
Okay. Why do they call you that?
Because I am inward looking and sure of myself. How about you?
I
Tanya.
I feel like I must be a narcissist because I'm really quite unsure of myself as well.
Well, I can introduce you to my friend Jane Oakland, the music psychologist, and she will help. Thank you.
Thank you very
I
much.
don't know why he's gone Chinese.
It's the
So-
suit.
There's a yeah. I'm like to provoke through my work as well.
Noticed.
Yeah. So when I say, and in the film it says, perhaps it was my suggestion that this is the last film I would ever make. I never suggested that to them. It's poetry, storytelling. I do it for impact in that scene.
Well, it worked.
To emphasise,
Yeah.
because the depression stuff is serious, you know, and my friend did kill himself, and all of that. So I was just emphasising it through writing around it. So whilst I feel that I've been really honest throughout, I am also, you know, performing myself for impact so that it connects with you.
And you say, so it's never going to happen.
No, of course I'll make it. I mean, I am
Your
making
mum-
other
your mum-
films.
No, but your mum's maybe doing another. Like I said, I feel like a little bit
Well,
invested in
well,
your
what you
family,
won't-
and I'd like to know more.
Yeah, well, what you won't know, why should you, is I've actually made 4 films with my mother up to this point.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and that's a lot of her talking about herself.
Oh,
Talking of narcissists.
okay. Well, interesting lady. Interesting lady.
Yeah, and I can't guarantee that. I mean, she has said to me, Matt, I know you're the kind of person that will be filming me on my deathbed. I was like, are you challenging me, or is what, you know?
Yeah, sounds like my mother.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say I would never film with Mum. I mean, we had a lot of fun with it, as you can see.
Yeah, it shows. Definitely shows.
But yeah, it was. But well, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't make a film like that again. It's bloody exhausting.
I was going to say, isn't there a sense where almost every project that you do enter into is going to be the last film that you ever make?
Yeah, I don't
until
need
you
to-
finish it,
Yeah.
and then you put it to the side, and then that releases you then to make the next project. But
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, that's my autobiographical thing. That's enough
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I'm not sure I resolve very much.
Yes.
So sometimes I think, what did I do that for?
what was the moment when you knew that it had to finish? When you said, okay, that's it. There's no more I can do with this. Let's tie this up and finish it.
I think we just ran out of time. It's like most, someone much more successful and famous than I said, the films are never finished, they just run out of time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So are you your own editor as well?
No, I have a very brilliant editor called Nick Curry, who's worked on my 3 features, so we've developed a really close working relationship that now is quite snappy, you know. So, are we out of time? 5 minutes, okay.
Another quiz question.
Oh, okay, I think we'll be okay with 5, thank you.
Can I ask?
Yes, ask away, I'm just going to make sure this is still running.
No, you go first.
Why isn't she here? Because she lives in Bristol.
I love the film.
Thank you.
It's terrific. I found it really, really brilliant. And I want to know whether your brother has seen it.
I don't know if he's seen it, but yeah, I'll just quickly explain that. So there's this mystery about my brother, and I think people are a bit nervous to ask in case he died or...
Yeah, there was that.
No, he was going through an absolutely awful divorce, poor guy, and he just didn't want to look at that period of his life. His memory of Reading and Cambridge isn't the same as mine. I thought it was all a hoot. He found it quite difficult at times, I think, and I think it was complicated for his connection with the fact of our parents' divorce, given that he was going through a divorce, must have been a complete and he didn't want to. Well, he was in real trouble.
No,
But I'm happy to say he's well, no, I made it personal. I'm really happy to talk about this stuff. I'm happy to say he's so much better now. He's remarried and Ben is originally Toby's friend. I got to know Ben since their friendship. And yeah, he's like the old Toby. Yeah.
I'd like to say thank you for stimulating so much rebellion in that group in Glasgow and in me and in anyone who watches it. I think it's such a celebration of naughtiness and setting fire to things and recovering, actually, of course. But I think that's what you're doing.
Yes, slowly.
And we can all, that's the journey, I think. And with the fantastic end with Spoons and that boy, I don't know if you probably staged that because he wasn't quite sooty enough, was he? He wasn't quite singed enough.
There was a stunt Spoons. Let's
yes,
say it that way.
yes.
But I still get a oh no, don't do it feeling, and I know that it's a setup, so that means we did our job right. Set it up right, But no, this is the original one. He's from Cambridge, actually.
He's got that look.
Yeah. He does.
Depressed.
And I think he might have come from the same shop that Sean talks about, where Mum comes in to buy the Bible, and then there's talk about the cassettes. I think there was probably still there, this sort of religious bookshop, and I think they had a bin of Snoopy ragdolls, because there was that phase where Peanuts went to be kind of Christian. Do you remember that?
Oh, right.
Gospel according to Peanuts, and and I just thought he was dead cute. And originally he wasn't wearing that, as you know, because you've seen the film. He was wearing a red sweatshirt that had the Gangs All Here written on it, and blue sort of dark drill jeans.
I'm really worried about his nose.
Well,
right, this is my problem.
I won't present him like that because you've seen him.
I'm a massive Snoopy fan.
He's a bit. My mum's had to go at the Dolls Hospital, but
there's a very good teddy bear hospital in Dublin.
What's it called?
Dragon's Den.
Repair shop.
Repair shop. That's a good
No,
idea.
don't take it. No.
You don't know where they could put your plastics.
I don't think it's going to be long before it's just going to...
There's a very good teddy bear hospital in Dublin. I can take you to.
I love his suit. I think he's amazing. I love his suit, although Vivian Westwood will be a bit...
Well, open up his jacket. Just the lower... Whatever you call that part.
I've got... it's Vivian Westwood.
Well, my
It
mum...
isn't.
I mean, this describes my mum perfectly. Someone sent her a beautiful Vivian Westwood top, right, with the label. What did she do? Cut the label off and sent it to me, rendering the top. It was probably worth 600 quid or something.
I remember seeing
That
Vivian
Spoons
Westwood,
needs this.
strangely enough, here in a Q&A years and years and
Right.
years ago, but he's beautiful.
Well, I thought I'd bring back,
He's wonderful.
McLaren and Westwood together in this strange fetish object.
Scared about his nose, though.
It's funny you say that about Dublin, Ben. Do you know that's the largest city in the world?
Is this a joke?
Yeah, because Dublin every day.
Oh my god.
Cut.